Like, oh my gosh, she's such a whore. I met judgmental ass niqabis. Okay, so I am way too nonchalant for me to be doing the whole formal YouTube introduction thing. Here are my socials. I'm not gonna ask you to follow because that's weird. It's funny, right? I'm the type of person who's like, if somebody's like, subscribe, or they're like, yeah, follow me, I'm like, I'm not gonna follow you. I go out of my way to just like not subscribe to that person, which is funny. I'm gonna just be talking about something that everybody and their mama seem to have an opinion about, which is like hijab. But specifically, I just wanted to make a video for anyone who's actually struggling with hijab right now. Because, I don't know, it's something that's like honestly personal to me as well. I had this video idea actually like last year. It was actually during Ramadan, I think a little bit before that, because that's usually the time of the year where people want to get more religious and, you know, kind of like feel a connection to Islam, things like that. Okay, so this is like a multifaceted conversation, right? This could honestly become a thesis as I think about everything. I think I kind of just want to go into some of the general things and then the things that kind of help me or have helped me keep it on. Because there's so many times in my life where I was like, I don't even want to be wearing this, especially like because of other people and what they'd say to me. I honestly find that like on social media especially, it's almost like the advice that you get is so disingenuous. Like, it's a pain in the ass. I've cried before because of like the dumb comments I've gotten. But that's like one of the things that I want to touch on. So there's a lot of things that go into it, right? Which is like your culture. But yeah, culture is a huge one because there's so many people who are just kind of like culturally Muslim. They go to the mosque sometimes, celebrate Eid, sometimes they fast during Ramadan, but the different facets that go into why so many people are struggling with hijab nowadays is not only environment and what people have to say about you, but also just like this pressure to look a certain way. So there's a fear of losing sex appeal, right? Like, or not being looked at as attractive. B, I think, is honestly like Islamophobia, not wanting to be a target of hate. That's like a big thing. What else? Fear of judgment from other people. I've also heard this so many times, right? Where someone will be like, oh, I don't pray, so therefore I shouldn't wear hijab. Or like, I don't wear hijab properly, so I should just take it off. As someone who, you know, I'm on the internet, right? But I'm not just like a casual internet user, I actually post. So obviously, like, you are subjected to a mass amount of criticism rather than, you know, just being people around you. And so I've gotten so many hurtful comments before being like, you're not wearing it properly, you're showing your edges, blah, blah, blah. Oh, your neck is showing. Just like people who think they know you. But even if you know someone, right? What right do you have to be talking to someone like that? Oh, you should just take off your hijab because you're not wearing it properly. Like, that in itself is arrogance. I think that's like my biggest thing that pisses me off about people. Our religion is based on the fundamental premise of peace, right? And there's a hadith that says a drop of arrogance in your heart means that you will not even smell paradise. And I think that's something that really like stuck out to me, right? When other people would be saying things to me when they had no understanding, no clue about what's in my heart, what I actually believe, and what I'm struggling with. I think that gave me a little bit of solace in my heart because it's not about them. It's not about what other people think about you. It's really like what your character is and whether you're arrogant. I think that's like one of the biggest things for me personally that I stand by. Here's one thing, right? You know, if you are able to bring someone closer to Islam, you know, if your character is so good or whatever, right? You're able to bring someone close to Islam or even, you know, introduce them to Islam. Immense amount of good deeds associated with that. I also believe that just as many good deeds that you would get for introducing someone to Islam, I think you get just as many bad deeds from pushing people away from Islam. And hijab is such a big aspect of that. Like, the identity of being a Muslim girl who who wears hijab is there's completely different connotations to that than men, right? Because think about it, there's so many Muslim men out there. Muslim is not associated with the race at all. And so we have all these Muslim boys out here looking ethnically ambiguous and shit, like, so they're just gonna get away with it. They can just be whatever. And the only thing that probably gives away their identity is if they have a Muslim name or a Muslim sounding name. You know, they're not gonna be as subjugated to the same criticism as Muslim women are. You obviously associate hijab with being Muslim. It's difficult in that regard. So that's one aspect, right? Where it's the not wanting to be subjugated to a hate crime, obviously. Just the connotations that come along with those hate crimes, right? But because it's like layered, it's not just about wearing hijab. It's often because like this happens to be like if you're a person of color, right? Like not only just being a person of color, but then there's like the Islamophobia, but then there's also like people expecting you to apologize for the shit that has nothing to do with you that happened like more than 10 years ago now. We are honestly living in a time where holding on to your faith, holding on to your morals is almost like holding a hot coal in your hand. This could even be Muslim friends. You almost think that, oh, if I make a Muslim friend or if I make a hijabi friend, that they're gonna bring me closer to Islam. Nope. I've met judgmental ass niqabi. I've met like people who are religious or Muslim that have almost like pushed me away from Islam more than some non-Muslim friends, which is crazy to think. And I think it ties back to the arrogance part, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. I believe that hijab it's not a reflection of religiosity. I can wear this hijab style and then I can come on and put on niqab. This could be within like the span of 10 minutes, right? And I just switch it. But does that change the person I am within the span of 10 minutes? No, because I'm the exact same person. I'm the exact same person. Like, crazy how much people judge based on an outer appearance. People continuously show that they don't know anything about you because it says nothing about your character. What you wear has nothing to do with what type of lifestyle you live. It's only like a fraction. I don't even know if this is a good comparison. It's like YouTube versus Instagram and TikTok. It's like Instagram is the least amount of context to your life. It's the smallest snippets because it's within a picture. And then TikTok is like 15 seconds. And oftentimes it's not about people's actual personal lives. I mean, some of y'all be oversharing on every single social media platform, but that's besides the point. TikTok is like 15 seconds. So it's like you can kind of see the person's facial movements. I don't know what else to say. But then there's YouTube that actually gives some context to the person's speech patterns, their body language. And you can kind of get like a glimpse into that person, what they actually believe, what their values are. And so that's like judging someone based on an Instagram picture. It's literally outward appearance. It has nothing to do with what's in your heart. Like you're on the same exact level as everybody else. The only thing that makes somebody different than you is their good deeds. It's not about how much money you have. It's not about what you wear. It's not about what your body count is. It's nothing. It's literally your character. I honestly think that people overcomplicate Islam because y'all really be doing that. It's cultural. It literally is cultural because I actually used to go to a private school for like a period of time. And I didn't do like the normal high school part. I memorized the Quran. Sometimes people on the internet would never know that I memorized the Quran just because of what I wear, what I experiment with, which is appearance. We shouldn't be bound to an aesthetic. We shouldn't be bound to outward things that can always change. Like your face is not going to stay the same for the rest of your life. So why should you think that anything else about your outward appearance like defines you? Yeah, in that school, right, they would say that their particular version of Islam was like wearing all black. And so there was certain comments like, oh, if you wear colorful socks, wear colorful hijabs, or if you have a nose ring, you know, just like small things like that. They judged your entire like state of religion. And what was crazy, I think this is actually another point that I wanted to get into. Like what I would notice, right, this is like a pattern of behavior. I'd remember that faculty members would focus on other people's kids more than their own kids. And I noticed that like it was just so polarized within how people ended up when they went to Islamic school. It's like either people would go to one extreme or they'd go to the total opposite extreme as far as like what we consider like Muslim. It's like really sad because you realize at some point that's not the right way to be teaching our religion at all. What I found really interesting, I remember this even as a kid too, because I think I started watching YouTube at like 10. I remember that like my sister used to watch a lot of the hijabi YouTubers, or the original people who did like hijab tutorials, or a lot of their content was based on hijab. And I think as I got older, I remember like people made such a big deal about this, and it was all these people taking it off. Because I've gotten some exposure to kind of being in the same position of people feeling like they have the right to comment about your life or make very quick judgments just based on a video or how you're wearing your hijab and blah, blah, blah. There's people that I was mutuals with at some point, or, you know, I followed them, they followed me, and they had like, you know, a mass following. And they'd end up taking off their hijab, and it was like so quick how many people are taking off. And I realized like this is a bigger problem at hand. This is not just like, oh, somebody's struggling so they take it off. It's because people don't want to be associated with so much hate. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Like the comment sections in so many places are so toxic. It's just like, you really think that you're gonna bring people to Islam with this like behavior, this holier than thou attitude? It just doesn't work. Probably a lot of 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, and they've been taught a certain way of life. Perhaps it's like the cultural version of Islam, almost like the very black and white thinking. And so because it's the anonymity, it's like an anonymous account, right? You don't have to put your social security number, you don't have to like disclose your age, you don't have to like, people don't have to know you, right? So you can just say whatever you want, and you feel like you have no repercussions for saying whatever you want to another person, despite it being hateful. And they make these harsh judgments on how hijab should be, or like what those people struggle with. And they're like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. So-and-so took their hijab off. Like, oh my gosh, she's such a whore. You know what's crazy? I honestly feel like if you make a quick judgment about somebody, you say things like that, you're gonna be tested with that exact same thing, because I've seen this over and over and over again, like countless times. It's just not a sustainable way to live, to have this mindset. This is actually something I feel like I've struggled with for the longest time, and just not wanting to be associated with Islamic content or even talking about Islam sometimes, because it was like, I almost felt like I would be subjugated to a different crowd than what I wanted. Like if you post something religious, it's almost like there's this expectation to be a certain way, and I would hold myself back from it because I didn't just want that to be like my online persona, because people almost build personas online acting like the perfect Muslim. And it doesn't sit right with me. It always felt so disingenuous, because you're filming yourself praying, you know, you're filming yourself being like this perfect Muslim, but nobody knows what is happening behind the scenes. I really believe it is between you and Allah. Your relationship with prayer, your relationship with fasting, everything. It's between you and Allah. But what I find interesting about a lot of people who on the internet who post this like Islamic content and kind of like fuel that, obviously this is not everybody, but you know, their comment section looks a very certain way, and it fuels that kind of community, and they're bringing the entire world between them and Allah. I don't know, that's just like my opinion. But here's another thing. People can be so quick to judge your entire character without knowing anything about what happened before you decide to present yourself in a certain way. There's so many days, like so many times, it would be a day where I literally wanted to take it off. I didn't want anything to do with it. It was something that I was really, really struggling with. So my hair was showing because I didn't really want to wear it. It took everything in me that day to like not take it off. I was showing half my hair, but for me, that was a huge amount of effort it took to keep it on that day. And I think it's so disheartening to see people badger people and totally like knock on people's self-esteem for that. And be like, yeah, you should just take it off, like astaghfirullah, sister. Here's another thing I noticed, right? It's like laced with jealousy. I found this so interesting. It was like a pretty girl. She's like posting, you know, perhaps she has her edges laid, whatever. You know, baby hair showing, or maybe half her hair showing, whatever, I don't care. Or maybe they're like wearing a quote unquote like tighter shirt. And then there's people in the comment section, they're like, tabarruj this, tabarruj that. And they're like, oh my god, she's so pretty, but at least I'm not like her. Or at least I don't do tabarruj. Just like trying to make yourself feel better than another person. I hate how that's laced with it. You're doing this under the guise of being a good Muslim, and then you're doing stuff like that that's technically backbiting, especially if it's not that person's video, but it's like another reposted edits of people. Like people will comment under that. I think we're engaging in social media more than we're staying present in our personal lives. We engage more with online content than we do with people, which is crazy. Like you're more likely to have more online interaction than you are to like talk to your classmates. And if we keep acting like having good character does not apply to your space online, then I think you need a big reality check. Because like your words do hurt other people. You're not just like hands up, I can do whatever I want. Hurting another person under the guise of free speech, you can cause severe psychological damage on another person based on what you say. And it doesn't matter if it's online or if you're saying it out loud. Say it to my face. If you don't have the guts to say it to my face, what makes you think, like, ugh, it just pisses me off. I've heard so many girls who are like, it's hard because there's so many things like laced with this. We want to be viewed as attractive, and that's sometimes why we feel like insecure and we compare ourselves to other hijabis, or while simultaneously comparing ourselves to girls who don't wear hijab, and we think like, damn, this outfit would look so much better if I didn't wear hijab. And that's really tough. Sometimes I think to myself like, damn, my life would be easier if I didn't wear it. It would be easier to get a traditional modeling contract. It would be easier to pull, right? It would be easier to pull. You know, just so many aspects, right? Like corporate jobs. It's sad seeing so many girls so insecure. Because I think what it is, the biggest thing I've noticed, is that when you cover, or you have to be modest, you know, you're covering everything, it brings your face to the forefront. And I've seen this with so many people who wear hijab. It's like, I don't even think hijabi is a good word, like, to describe it, because it's not like you're saying, if you wear pants, you're not calling someone a panty. Or like shoes, does that make you a shoesy? It's kind of like a weird word now that I think about it, but you're not defined by a cloth, let's be honest. It brings your face to the forefront when you're covering everything, when you're not able to wear your hair out, or, you know, show off your body a little bit. And so that's why it's almost like I see so many girls comparing themselves to other people, because they're not like kind of given the baseline, like they almost have to put in way more effort to feel pretty or look pretty to an outside audience, whatever. I think a lot of people who wear hijab struggle with fitting into the beauty standard. And this is like so like multi-layered, especially if you have like ethnic features. We're living in a day and age when it's like people think that ethnic features only look good when it's adopted by a certain group of people, when it's trending. And that's really sad that features are trending and then they go out of trend as if it's a piece of cloth. That's crazy. But yeah, it's almost like you feel like features are in the forefront, right? And if you're insecure about your features, that's where people slip. Because they're like, okay, well, that girl's wearing hijab and she looks so much better than me. I feel like I'm ugly. And I don't know, it makes me like really sad that people think that thing. Like, I used to be there. I used to be that person. But I feel like sometimes if I could talk to my younger self, I would explain so many things. And whatever, as your internet older sister, as your internet friend, whatever you want to call me, I don't really care. I just want you to know that, you know, you're not alone, and there's so many people out there who are struggling with the exact same thing. At some point, you will grow into yourself. You just have to do the work. If this is something important to you, you have to keep it in your life. It's between you and Allah. Here's another thing, right? It's almost like you're struggling, and you know, you'd think that your family might support you, but sometimes paradoxically, they can make it worse. You know, the type of advice that they might give, right? Because think about it. If you live in a family where that's like the expectation that you have to wear hijab, it's coming from there's an emotional bias attached to it, right? So if someone's struggling with it, they're like, I want to remove this part of my identity, or like our perceived expectations when it comes to identity, that might be viewed as a threat by your family. Sometimes you might have to deal with it on your own, or at least make friends who can support you and, you know, give good advice rather than like tear you down. It's like, you can be a very pretty person who wears hijab. Very beautiful, beautiful features, everything. And then sometimes because of the fact that you cover, you might feel like, not even from a arrogant standpoint, where you might feel like people who are, you know, more basic or dress more conformatively, you feel like they're getting more attention, they're getting more the things that you perceive as valuable, especially while growing up or just wanting to feel attractive. You see that happening, and then you feel like maybe there's something wrong with me, maybe I'm ugly, when that's not true. The aspect of using hijab to mask insecurities, I see that in so many religious spaces. Really, like the private school space, the masajid that are supposed to be places of peace, but they can become so hostile. They can become such hostile environments. Purely due to the reason that, like, there might be an insecure person who uses niqab or they use hijab as an excuse to mask their insecurities. So they're like, oh, I'm so religious. Look at me. I do this, so I'm better than you. That's how people mask their insecurities. Arrogance is a way to mask your insecurities. It's scary when it's paired with like religiosity, because it doesn't belong there. It doesn't belong there. As far as it's concerning Islam, it does not belong there. And I don't know who you think you are, but it doesn't. It doesn't. I don't care if you are dressed better than me. You have no idea, based on how I dress, whether I read more Quran than you, whether I pray more than you, whether I'm more sincere in my dua, or whatever. It's just like a very frustrating topic to talk about, because you get knocked on for your interests. And sometimes you kind of have to separate that with your religion. You can be an artist who happens to be Muslim, who happens to wear hijab, rather than like that being your entire identity. You know, we all have lives outside of what other people perceive us as. I just don't want to be a token hijabi, I don't want to be a token, because that's not who I am. That's like your entire identity being based on you wearing socks. That sounds crazy. Imagine your entire identity online, just wherever you go, is like your identity is based on the socks you wear. Really? That's like the most boring part about me, if I'm being honest. I have so much more to offer. I have so much more to like bring to the table. And you're gonna judge me based on like a cloth I wear on my head. On a last note, when I realized I'm not wearing it for anyone else, when I realized that, okay, I'm struggling today, okay, I'm a lay down those baby hairs, I'm wearing it half today, I'm showing my neck today, okay, today I'm really covered, like my neck, my chest, my everything, right? Okay, thank you Allah for giving me enough strength to do this at least. That's how I view it. And I actually feel closer to Allah doing it that way. Because I know he's way more graceful than anybody else on me. He's more merciful. He's way more than anybody, than what any human can offer, what any external thing that you're able to see can offer. And so I think after realizing that, it's just I don't have to cry anymore about what other people think about me. I don't have to care, because it's not their problem. It's not. It's my problem, and I'm responsible for that. Nanya. That being said, I just wanted to talk about this one hadith. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a prostitute was forgiven by Allah because passing by a panting dog near a well and seeing that dog was about to die of thirst, she took off her shoe and tying it with her head cover, she drew some water for it. and Allah forgave her just because of that and granted her Jannah. This is like, I think this hadith in particular has really, that just like drives me back. I feel like it's been my lifeline in so many senses. And I'm just really grateful for that. You know, just the fact that I'm able to be sitting here and at least having an honest conversation about the things that I don't see available. And so yeah. See you next time. That's crazy. I don't even know if hipster is like a word anymore. Whereas beards are hipster. I'm like trying to be eloquent right now. Why is it so difficult? I think the problem is that I'm looking at myself.